Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another On the Water with Captain David Blinken. How are you, David?
Good, Marvin. How are you?
As always, I'm just trying to stay out of trouble, and we were kind of lamenting before we started recording that you had a bad weather day on Long Island, you canceled your charter, and then it didn't really get bad until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, God. It happens to all of us on occasion. Looked at the weather this morning, looked like it was going to be windy and rainy, and called up the client and said, let's bail. And then, of course, we could have fished until noon or 1. So, oh, well.
Yeah, it happens. But, to just kind of refresh folks, you're probably, 3 weeks into your guide season right now?
Yeah, I pretty much started around May 9th or 10th this year. Climate change has made it really nice in some ways. It's a horrible thing, but I've been able to start each year over the past 7-8 years earlier and earlier. And this year I started very early, around May 8th or 9th. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so, you've got, I would imagine, Rich, you've got stripers and you got bluefish, right?
Absolutely. We started out looking for stripers, and honestly, not as many as I thought I would see between the forks out here. I know other people have been finding some decent fishing, but for us, it's unless you're fishing, migrators out in the ocean, it has not been super great. And we've had a pretty good bluefish run though with was probably averaging 33 inches, which is a pretty serious bluefish.
Yeah, I would imagine that'll put a bend in your rod, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. We're using 10 weights for these guys. You could probably catch them on a 9. It's nice to have a little extra stick for sure. Also, sometimes you're throwing bigger stuff in poppers, so it's nice to have a little more stick.
Got it. And so as the season progresses, I assume the stripers will start to move a little bit more into shore because there'll be more bait fish and more activity like that?
We don't have surprisingly, we don't have a huge amount of bait that's in the bays right now. And normally we've got spearing and sand eels and stuff like that. There seems to be quite a bit in the ocean, but they're not in the bays as of yet. And I'm hoping once the bait goes in the bay, we're going to start seeing more striped bass. The bluefish will come and go and stuff like that all season long. But as far as stripers go, we really need something to keep them happy and close to us. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some sand eels and spearing heel in.
Yeah. And in terms of maybe kind of tactics and tackle for the stripers, how are you approaching that right now?
Well, it depends. Most of the fishing we've been doing this season, at least I've been doing, I have friends who've been fishing deeper water. I've been fishing, probably the average water depth has been about 2 feet. So we're using floating lines, primarily 8-weight rods, and longish leaders about anywhere from 9 to 11 feet, terminating at 15, 16-pound test. And most of the flies, we just came off a phenomenal cinderworm hatch. So that's a whole different kind of fishing. But most of the flies we've been using are like small mantis shrimp patterns, deceivers that match the normal quarry they're going on. In the first couple of weeks, we were basically using pink deceivers, kind of a washed out pink, topped with a little peacock roll. And that was kind of the fly du jour for the striped bass the first 2 weeks of the season. And that was a lot of fun.
Got a question for you from Brenner, and this is kind of a great as we're kind of kicking off at the beginning of your season. He wanted to kind of get your, preferred, line and rod combos for inshore fishing for stripers and blues.
Well, inshore, if you're fishing them on a flat, we kind of talked about it a bit. Certainly for striped bass, my primary rod is an 8-weight. Certainly a 9-weight is very good too, with floating line leaders terminating between 15 and 20. And for bluefish, especially the ones that are kind of daisy chaining and up on the flats and shallow water. I'm a big fan of, of 10 weights. And even though 9 weights are very usable for them, occasionally you'll get a bluefish over 34, 35 inches. And you're really happy to have a rod that's got a little extra pulling power. And as far as the bluefish rods go, I usually have my leaders tapering from either 40 or 50 pound down to about 25. And then I tie on about a 1.5 foot section of 60, just using a simple Albright special or an Albright knot. And the reason why I'm tying on 60-pound either fluorocarbon or mono is, one, if there's a striped bass in the neighborhood, you have a better chance of catching them. And the clearness of it, I just think makes it a little more visible. And people think bluefish will strike at anything, but bluefish can be rather picky. They especially in shallow water, they can be very picky. So I like to have my leader is as invisible as possible. So that's kind of my philosophy. If I was fishing to bluefish in deeper water that are kind of whacking anything, maybe some piano wire and tie that onto the end, and that would work fine.
Got it. And so if you use 60, do you not need to use any kind of like bite tippet?
Well, the 60-pound test is the bite tippet.
Yeah, that was what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, and I'll usually retie after each fish. So that's why I said like a 1.5 foot or so long, so that I'll get to retie, 4, 5, 6 times before I have to, tie in a new hunk of 60. So that, it just makes it a little more manageable. And, I'm not going for any IGFA records with my clients or anything. If I was, I think the required length is about 12 inches for a shot tip. So, but and it's got to be 20 pounds or less, which we're not doing any of that stuff.
Fair enough. And, folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email them to us or DM us on social media. DM me. We're going to continue like we did before to make David's life easier. And if we use your question, I will send you some articulate fly swag. And David and I are still kind of working out what the drawing is going to be for this series. But David, before I let you go, I guess a couple of things. I know you've got some trips coming up kind of towards the end of the summer and into the fall. And then also, if you can kind of share folks, your contact info. So if they want to go to the boat with you, they can do that too.
Yeah, if they want to, they can contact me at davidblinken@gmail.com. That'll be the easiest way to get me. And it's my last name is spelled Blinken, first name David, no dot, no underscore, and they can certainly get me that way. And yeah, I'll just tell you about a couple of trips we have. We've got an August trip for tarpon down in Campeche, Mexico, which is always very exciting. August is one of the prime months for tarpon in Mexico. And we're fishing for juvenile tarpon. And they go anywhere from 5 pounds to 50 pounds, depending on how lucky you are that day. And that's an awful lot of fun. So, if anyone out there wants to join us, we might have a rod or two available. And then we go back 2 more times in November and December, and that's what we have planned. And I'll also be a guest guide in Martha's Vineyard starting around the 15th of August. So if no one's ever fished the vineyard, it's a really interesting time. And there's still plenty of stripers around in August on the vineyard.
Yeah, very, very neat. Yeah, and your August trip, you've even, an interesting thing too is your buddy Steve Ramirez, or actually I should say our buddy Steve Ramirez is going to be on that trip.
Yeah, Steve is going to be on that trip, and hoping somebody else I'm speaking to right now might be able to join us, and that would be an awful lot of fun.
It would be a lot of fun. I'm working on it.
Yeah. And all I can say is 8 weights at dawn, Marvin.
Yeah, I looked at the website and they said they serve breakfast promptly at 5 a.m.
Oh, yeah. And if you're not out of bed at 5 a.m., believe me, you're going to have Captain David Blinken shaking you out saying, it's too late for breakfast. We're going to the boat.
So you better put some Nutri-Grain bars in your luggage then, right?
Always.
There you go. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, David.
Take care, Morgan. Bye.